Right now on the National Weather Desk, here comes the Pinneapple Express. As this atmospheric river heads to the west coast, could California's reservoirs overflow?
There is no such thing as average. We either have it or don't have it.
Surprise tornado. How a twister touched down without any warning.
We weren't seeing the severe weather being realized.
Cicada invasion. And this time, it's a rare double brood onslaught.
Some people may see a whole lot of cicadas this year.
Groundhog Day is Friday. We have everything you've ever wanted to know about Punxsutawney Phil.
Who are the guys in the top hats? Explain it all to me.
And why not all dawns are created equal.
From our nation's capital, this is the National Weather Desk.
And a very good morning and welcome to the National Weather Desk. I'm meteorologist Brian Vandegraff. Well, the Pinneapple Express is on the move again, and that's that atmospheric river that brings tropical moisture to the west coast. Seattle meteorologist Shannon O'Donnell explains what's next.
We still have this atmospheric river known as the Pinneapple Express because of its subtropical roots, tapping all the way back down toward the Hawaiian Islands. That surge of precipitation, the next batch of it is going to roll right up the coastline as we head into Tuesday and Wednesday. And Wednesday in particular, it's the final day of January. It is going to be a soggy finish to the month as that next round of rain moves through.
But the biggest impact will be in Northern California. In fact, Northern California could see 8 inches of rain by the end of the week. Several feet of snow could fall as well in the Sierra Nevada mountains. And even the Los Angeles area could see some flash flooding. Some people are concerned that all that moisture could cause some of the reservoirs to overflow their banks. But as Sophia Lasios explains, officials say those flood risks right now remain low.
Flooding seemed to be a trend in 2023, with places like Tulare, Corcoran, and even Fresno seeing water covering the roadways. But this year, that's yet to be seen.
There isn't a real big concern at this point.
Ryan Jacobson, the CEO of the Fresno County Farm Bureau, says this atmospheric river doesn't look like it'll flood the valley.
We are not expecting any kind of, significant overfill to our local reservoirs. They are being managed very appropriately to make sure that doesn't happen.
Right now, Millerton Lake is at 55% of its total capacity. Pine Flat Reservoir is hitting 64% of its capacity, reaching the top of its recommended conservation. But Jacobson says that shouldn't be a concern.
There may be some minor isolated flooding on some streets and everything else, but for the most part, it's something that we expect this time of year.
Jacobson also says we can't compare this year's atmospheric rivers to 2023 because that was extraordinary.
There is a very good likelihood that if these storms do look like they turn out to be fairly significant, you'll see some increases of flows on those river systems to start to evacuate water. But again, that's just in preparation. You most likely at this time aren't going to see anything remotely being released like we saw last year.
This year has been looking like a drier year. But will it stay that way?
One thing we learned in California water, there is no such thing as average. We either have it or don't have it. We have some catching up to do. And that season, every single day that goes by right now, it starts to shrink pretty quickly.
Rain is also an issue on the East Coast, especially western North Carolina. This has been the second wettest January in Asheville history. The city received double the typical rainfall for the month. Justin Berger spoke with the National Weather Service in Asheville to see how all that rain is impacting the region.
Nearly 9 inches of rain to begin the new year at the Asheville Regional Airport.
For a winter month, this is very, very impressive, all right? So the total rain so far since December 1st, we've had over 15 inches. That's a surplus of 7.3 inches, and that's the second wettest since December 1st on record.
It's also the second wettest January on record, passing 2013 after picking up more than an inch of rain over the weekend.
The drought has been completely negated at this point in time. We don't even consider the drought anymore. The groundwater has been recharged. We're where we should be, if not more.
Although drought conditions have improved, some of the region is still running abnormally dry after the rain deficit exceeded 11 inches below normal to conclude 2023.
We could have used a little bit of help on the drought, obviously. We didn't want to erase it in literally 1.5 months, but that was a little too much too fast. We would have liked to spread it out over like 3 or 4 months.
We are concerned that if we continue to get this kind of rain, we could have a big impact.
Palmer uses 2018 as an example, referencing the landslides and flooding that took place.
We don't want a repeat of something like that. We want a break. And there's not necessarily a correlation that just because we start wet doesn't mean we'll stay wet. Sometimes we can start wet and it'll level off and then it'll get dry.
I don't see us being wet maybe beyond the El Nino. We probably will start to level off and get more normal precipitation patterns once we get past, say, April or May. That's the hope, at least, because, leading into some of those convective months, we call them, where the thunderstorms can dump tremendous amounts of rain, that could lead to more serious flooding.
And it wasn't rainfall, but rather a tornado that has people talking in central South Carolina. It struck without warning on Sunday night near the capital city of Columbia, the third this month in that region. Luckily, no one was injured. Masharia Adams looks at why no warnings were issued for this twister.
Biggest questions and that we've gotten from residents is, why wasn't there a warning?
Josh Morton is Saluda County's emergency management director. He says people who live here have that same question after an EF1 tornado touched down in the county Saturday.
What we had noticed earlier in the day that we weren't seeing the severe weather being realized. It wasn't reaching the ground, but that transition in the evening, and then we had the event here in Saluda County.
Richard Okolowski of the National Weather Service is talking about the tornado that started 7 miles northeast of Saluda and ended 8 miles northeast, leaving trees down, including one that fell right on someone's house.
We did have one home that had a tree that came down on a vehicle, and also a portion of that home. We had another home with just some minor cosmetic type damage, also some shingles on that one. But overall, it was primarily in wooded areas.
We get to late March and April, generally we have plenty of instability. So what we can predict is it gets easier, but at this time of year it can be tricky. So always have a plan, even if there isn't a warning out.
There were no surprises in Nova Scotia, where the first nor'easter of the winter blew through the Canadian province yesterday. More than half a foot of snow is expected in Halifax, along with strong winds, enough to close schools across Nova Scotia on Monday. Even mail delivery was suspended for some in some places across Nova Scotia. Well, this year, an environmental phenomenon will be taking some parts of the nation by swarm. 2 species of cicadas will be emerging at the same time for the first time in 221 years. Joel Vasquez spoke to a bug expert about what to expect and what areas will be the most impacted.
For the first time in 221 years, 2 species of cicadas will be making their way to the surface world, Brood 19 and Brood 13.
Some people may see a whole lot of cicadas this year.
Experts call it the Great Southern Brood.
Last time they emerged was 2011.
And if billions of insects emerging from the ground every 13 years doesn't sound science fiction enough to you, Dr. Benson says these periodic cicadas spend over a decade harvesting nutrients from tree roots, building their strength to eventually come up and serenade their mates with this sound.
They fly up into the trees, and within a few days, the males start calling the females. That's like cicada whine that we hear. They call the females come over, have a mating party, and the cycle repeats itself.
And while these cute little guys might give you the heebie-jeebies, Dr. Benson says they've played an important role in the ecosystem for centuries.
They're an indication of environmental health. They recycle back. They're a food resource. It's kind of a bonanza for a lot of things that feast on them, like birds and reptiles and insectivores that are mammals.
And if you're worried they're going to ruin your garden or crops, Dr. Benson says there's no need to fear because they much prefer their deciduous tree diet.
I wouldn't worry about them. I would just, like I said, get ready and enjoy the show.
An exploration team says it may have found a new clue in the mysterious disappearance of Amelia Earhart. Deep Sea Vision says it captured sonar images of what could be Earhart's aircraft after scanning more than 5,200 square miles of ocean floor. The group says it plans to further explore that area. She disappeared in the Pacific Ocean back in 1937. The trip would have made her the first female aviator to circle the globe. And coming up on the National Weather Desk, we'll head to Michigan to find out how warmer temperatures are impacting this year's sturgeon fishing season. And we'll explore the history of Groundhog Day.
I'm meteorologist Charlie Lopresti with Look at the Northeast. For the first time in a while, we have a storm-free forecast in the Northeast. Temperatures are going to top out in the 20s and 30s this afternoon. There'll be a few more clouds back into New York and New Jersey. But a lot of sunshine should be expected through parts of New England. This is 2 o'clock this afternoon. Notice temperatures, they're running seasonably cool. And Wednesday is almost a carbon copy, and the early morning clouds will break up to a lot of sun. And notice those temperatures, they're not quite as cold. We should be in the 30s and low 40s.
I'm meteorologist Amy Aronson, and here's a look at the mid-Atlantic region. We've got a quiet day ahead of us, but another chilly one. Temperatures will be in the low to mid-40s throughout the afternoon before falling again for your midweek. We're not really tracking much in terms of rain or snow. Tuesday's a completely dry day. We are tracking this weak little weather maker to our west. That's going to send us some extra clouds by midweek and also send us a very slim chance for a brief rain or snow shower. And that chance would come early Wednesday. And that's the scene here.
I'm meteorologist Vitas Reed. Here's a look at your southeast forecast highs. It looks like we're going to see 56 degrees in Nashville, Tupelo 65 degrees, 53 in Raleigh, 61 in Macon, down in Tampa 67 degrees, and Jacksonville at 67. High pressure pretty much in control over parts of the south. It looks like it's going to allow for Mississippi, Alabama to stay dry, down towards Florida. Clear skies. Got a little weather disturbance over the Great Lakes. Going to bring some showers over parts of the mountains of eastern Tennessee and western Carolinas.
You are watching the National Weather Desk.
Well, it's been a tricky weather situation for California farmers this year. While most of the agriculture industry has been happy with all the recent rains, there can always be too much of a good thing. One example is almond farmers who say that a wet winter can sometimes be bad news for their crops. Lena Folk has more.
We love the rain. Anytime we can get more rain, we appreciate it, and this time of year is ideal.
For almond farmer Jenny Holterman, rainfall in January is imperative. Without it, crops will suffer, resulting in major challenges for the agriculture industry.
Every drop of water we get is less irrigation we would have to put on later in the growing year, but it really helps our aquifer. It helps our crops replenish that water supply.
Holterman said the best case scenario is for snow in the mountains, which will create a recurring supply of water for summer after it melts.
We really like a steady flow of rain. If we could have our wish list rather than a whole bunch at once. If we get a lot of rain over a short amount of time, then we have to deal with things like flooding.
The rainfall this month is above normal for January, but it pales in comparison to what we got last year. Looking ahead to February, Holterman said farmers do not want rain past early February because it could jeopardize the blooming of almonds. But Musio says February is likely to have rain.
All of the southwestern United States should be seeing significant rainfall, and this is just the next 8 to 14 days. We'll see more rain going into the end of February, too.
Although farmers witness the direct impact, Holterman said the amount of rain for crops affects the entire economy.
Agriculture is our community livelihood, and it's what we do, so it really does impact our whole community.
The Black Lake sturgeon fishing season in Michigan starts this week, but with the recent warm temperatures, this season could be a lot more complicated than most. Daniel Zivian has the details.
The sun is starting to peek through the clouds. The roads are clear and much of the snow is melting. You might see these conditions and say, things are looking up. But if you head out there on the ice, it can get very dangerous.
It's starting to honeycomb with these warm temperatures, and what we're going to see for the next 10 days is that warming trend to continue. When that happens, that ice is going to continue to deteriorate.
And the timing is brutal. Jay Woderski says this is the worst forecast in his 50 years of sturgeon fishing.
This year we're going to have to be extra careful, extra vigilant of where we walk, how we get there. Ice conditions are not safe by any means for car or truck, which we have traditionally driven out there a lot. Even side-by-sides, probably way more than the ice conditions are good for. A lot of people travel from Wisconsin downstate, and they really don't have any perspective on what the conditions are of the ice other than what we can tell them.
While area authorities are well equipped for rescue missions, Sheriff Cook says the timing varies and you should pack your own safety gear before stepping onto any lake.
Carrying a flotation device, carrying your ice picks, carrying a flashlight, having your cell phone, use the buddy system.
But even in warm weather, Woderski and his friends are going ahead with the celebrations.
Well, the Black Lake Sturgeon Shivaree is a celebration of the heritage we have with the sturgeon. They're an iconic creature that has been around for centuries, a lot longer than we have. And we just try to celebrate and promote them.
Concerns about bear interactions with humans is growing in the Bozeman, Montana area. It's because the human population is growing as well. Michael Sanokskoy has details.
We want to see is for people to be proactive in avoiding conflicts with bears, and at the end of the day, just keep their community safer and help wildlife be healthy.
Jacobson says things like unsecure garbage, bird feeders, pet food, and barbecue grills are still the primary attractants leading to human and black bear conflicts. Another emerging need in reducing conflicts? Educating folks who are moving to Bozeman.
There's a greater need for educating people on how to live and recreate responsibly in bear country to avoid those conflicts, and so that message is having to get out to a much bigger audience than it used to.
Jacobson says FWP offers programs to people who live and play in bear country with a focus on bear safety and education. He adds there are numerous events to educate people on how to be bear aware. I also spoke to Bozeman City staff who told me bear-resistant trash containers are more in demand to help reduce conflicts.
We've been exceptionally grateful to have great partners in the community that have helped us fund about 100 initial purchases of bear totes. Those are almost all now distributed into the community.
Ross says the city will continue to educate the community on proper disposable practices and look into the possibility of acquiring more bear-resistant totes.
We're not far off from learning just how much more winter we can expect this year because Groundhog Day is this Friday. Emily Gracie spoke to a meteorologist who's been at Gobbler's Knob for the past 22 years, reporting on the event, and he shares how the whole tradition got started.
In the movie, he's in his bed, his breakfast. He just goes out to a little park downtown, and then that's it. It is nothing like that. So Gobbler's Knob is a couple of miles south of Punxsutawney. You can't get up there until 2 a.m. and you have to take a bus from downtown Punxsutawney unless you have a special access. And so the crowd usually is downtown and they have different places you could stay, and then they work their way on the bus, and people are there all morning long, just in the cold, dancing, watching the entertainment. And it is a pretty big party. And there's family sections and there's fires for people to warm up. And it's just a nice atmosphere. I tell everyone it's something you gotta do at least once.
Okay, so take me through the process itself of the groundhog seeing its shadow. Are we still relying on that? I'm curious about kind of the history and when things transition to there's like a scroll and who are the guys in the top hats? Explain it all to me.
Well, it all started in the 1800s in Pennsylvania. And even before then, I'll even back up even before then, it was a German tradition over in Europe. And they used to use a hibernating hedgehog. Well, when the Germans migrated to Pennsylvania, we had a high German population. So what they did is, well, we don't have hedgehogs here. They found a groundhog similar enough. And in the late 1800s, they came out for the first time. And every year since then, and the tradition really didn't grow that much until the movie. And what Phil proclaims is he actually picks one of two scrolls, one that says that he sees a shadow, one that says he doesn't.
So what do you think for this year? Any predictions yourself?
Oh, well, he will always try to find a shadow.
There's much more to hear about Groundhog Day on our podcast, Off the Radar. Joe shared some of the actual scientific relevance of Groundhog's Day that might surprise you. You can listen right now anywhere where you get your podcasts. As we take a break, we take to the skies over snow-covered mountains in Utah.
Well, a very good Tuesday morning, everyone. I'm meteorologist Andrew Buckmichael. Pretty quiet weather across the plains. There is a quick clipper that's going through the Ohio Valley and Great Lakes today. As we move on into the day tomorrow, pretty quiet for a lot of us, and temperatures continuing to slowly warm up. Look at all the sunshine across the plains, getting up to 67 in Wichita tomorrow. As we move into later part of the week, again, most of us still staying pretty quiet on Thursday with a few more clouds and most of us seeing temperatures even a little bit warmer.
Good morning, I'm meteorologist Alex Garcia. Here's a look at your regional weather. Things are really nice across the region. Generally into the 40s, we're looking 50s way deep down into South Texas, 40s up to the northeast. A weak cold front will come passing through the area today, bringing cooler, drier air to the north, high pressure controls to the south, with a little bit of some cloud cover. But overall, should be more like a spring day for most people. I'm meteorologist Alex Garcia. That's a look at your regional weather.
Well, hi there, everybody, and a good Tuesday morning to you. I'm meteorologist Shannon O'Donnell. It is still officially winter, but out west it is looking and feeling a lot more like spring, including out of Phoenix with highs close to 80 today in the Valley of the Sun, back to nearly 50 in Spokane and mid-70s in San Diego. Current weather maker out west, a big ridge of high pressure that will inch into the Four Corners region today, making way for this atmospheric river that will translate into heavy snow by midweek in Tahoe. And that's the scene from here.
Weather Window, presented by the National Weather Desk.
Folks around the Asheville, North Carolina area started the work week with a coat of snow. Higher elevations saw several inches. The coating enough to turn some landscapes into a late January winterland of wonders. And it seems for this dog, any day is a good day for soccer, and a snow-covered balcony likely adds to the fun.
For more content like this, like the National Weather Desk on Facebook.
Dawn is the first appearance of light in the sky before the sunrise, but there are actually different types of dawn. Theron Zahn explains.
We all know that dawn is when sun comes up, but did you know there are 3 definitions of dawn? Believe it or not, one of them is called nautical dawn. That is when the sun is 12 degrees below the horizon, just enough light to see things around. There's also civil dawn and meteorological dawn, but there are 3 kinds of dawn as you wake up every day.
We'd love to share your weather content on the air. You can find us on all of your favorite social media platforms, including Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. Just search National Weather Desk. We'll be right back. Well, thank you for joining us today. I'm meteorologist Brian Vandegraff. Make it a great Tuesday, and we'll see you right back here again tomorrow.